Welcome to Voices Amped, Season 2, Episode 4. Happy New Year. It's 2022, and I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Lauren Buglioli. Lauren is a thriving actress currently residing in Atlanta, Georgia, appearing on major network television shows like The Oval, Queens, Young Dylan, Raising Dion, and is recently wrapped on several new projects, including Florida Man, coming to Netflix in 2022, and Tyler Perry's A Jazz Man's Blues, as well as the upcoming film Vendetta. In a demanding market, Lauren shares how she uses systems, daily routines, and growth mindset to keep her focus where she wants her energy to flow. She also shares some of her favorite mindset leaders and her personal journey through it all. A perfect guest to help us launch into 2022, Voices Amped is honored to share the space with the one and only Lauren Buglioli. Hey, friends, I'm Ellie Clark, and this is Voices Amped. My friend Lauren Buglioli is here with me. Lauren is on this podcast to continue to audition for the role of Ellie's best friend. I'm Ellie. In hopes of securing friendship with Vanessa, you failed on that count. She's not here today.
You can't continue now. You can't continue.
If this part of the bio is not read aloud, there will be no interview, as these are the rules. So the first thing she did was threaten us. Now you know Lauren. Lauren was born in Los Angeles, where she worked as an actress before moving to London, England for middle and high school, where she continued to work in film, television, and theater. Her training includes London Central School of Speech and Drama, Lambda, NYU, Stella Adler, Lee Strasberg, Upright Citizens Brigade, IO West, Leslie Kahn, and Margie Haber. What is IO West? I've never heard of IO West.
It closed, but it used to be an improv school out in LA and theater.
Cool. Very cool. So really big news, folks. Lauren just wrapped Florida Man for Netflix alongside Edgar Ramirez and Paul Schneider. I had to look them up too. I know Paul Schneider from Parks and Rec, I think, but Edgar Ramirez, I looked up. I enjoyed looking at those pictures. She plays Caitlin Fox. Huge 8 episodes coming to Netflix in 2022. I can't wait for everyone to watch it. Who are the producers of Florida Man?
It's Aggregate Films, so it's Jason Bateman. Be cool.
I know, be cool, right? And so coming in 2022, huge deal. She most recently worked on Tyler Perry's A Jazz Man's Blues and Vendetta alongside Clive Standen, Theo Rossi, and Bruce Willis. What? Lauren is represented by Privileged Talent, Brilliant Talent Management, and DGRW. And in addition to her training in film and television, Lauren holds a degree in early childhood education and special education from NYU and sings a beautiful rendition of the classic tune, There's a Dinosaur Knocking at My Door, the Shabbat song. She adopted 2 dogs in the last 2 years, Vixen and Beverly Hills Cop 2. If you want to see a picture of them, she's got a few, or you can go to her Instagram, Lauren_Buglioli. Buglioli. And so now, Lauren, we give you the floor for your singing of There's a Dinosaur Knocking at My Door, the Shabbat song.
Well, I'm not warmed up.
Okay.
There's a dinosaur knocking at my door, and he's come to have Shabbat. He'd love to have Shabbat. Yes, he's come to have Shabbat with me.
How many podcasts have you sung that on?
This is the only one. This is the only time I've ever sung it, other than when I auditioned for Bad Jews at American Stage. And I was like, I know this Shabbat song if you want to hear it. And they were like, absolutely not, get out.
No, thank you.
No,
I loved it. Thank you for singing it for us.
You're so welcome.
So Lauren, we've asked you to be on the January podcast as our guest because you are a growth mindset guru, geek, goddess. And I am excited that our listeners have the opportunity to hear about your work on goal setting, visualizing, planning, putting systems and plans for success for 2022, and your story and why mindset is such an integral part of your journey. And at the end of your bio, the part I didn't read was this: Lauren is an artist because it makes her feel most alive and inspires her to continue to grow as a human. She wants to be a light in an industry that once brought her such profound darkness to prove anything is possible and nice girls can finish first. She wants to inspire and empower others as she continues to imperfectly navigate this industry. So I'm interested in why this was at the end of your bio, and if you want to share what that means to you.
Ooh, here we go. Everyone, fasten your seatbelts.
Uh-huh.
First of all, thank you. I had to kind of poke fun at the fact that we write these bios about ourselves, and it's kind of like, we're doing it.
But we got to show off a little bit. You are.
Man. I'm just freaking out that dreams come true and all of that. And, you know, I think it needs to be said after reading that I left the industry 3 times, you know, because of that darkness that I was experiencing prior to re-entering the business from a very different place where I knew myself and I was willing to say no and have boundaries and not rely on an industry that things are so fleeting for my sense of self-worth and happiness and fulfillment. So to answer your question, that was last because I think I tend to lean into comedy because there were parts of my life that got me through to, you know, just I had to make light of things I was walking through to survive, and comedy became kind of my go-to thing. But it really comes and came from this place of walking through kind of profound darkness of, okay, things are falling apart around me. Like there were times I didn't have my health. I kind of fell into the hands of people who were in positions of power in the industry who told me things like you need to be underweight and called me weekly to ask what I weighed and, you know, wanted me to do certain things that were not healthy. And, you know, this was before I taught. This was all I ever wanted, to be in this industry. And that's a dangerous thing, right? Because we can love our art and we can love being artists, but there's also this business component that we have to kind of enter in with optimistic trepidation, right? So I look back at that younger version of myself and think, man, I'm so grateful that you walked through everything you walked through and that you learned what you needed to learn. And my hope is that, you know, and it kind of happens organically. I'll have people reach out to me and say, like, I'm in this business and I'm feeling unfulfilled and I'm feeling really depressed. And I'm like, you want to jump on the phone? Like, this isn't a DM conversation, you know? And I think we only have so much bandwidth to do that realistically. So that's where mindset, you know, I work with you at Arville Warner Studio and we have the mindset component of that. I think that's why it's so important to me as I teach what I needed and I teach what I currently need. Like I get up every morning and work on this, if that makes sense. What a way to start. Good afternoon.
Hello, welcome to Voice of Sound. Yeah, and the thing is,
casual.
It's what Vanessa and I have said over and over again about the Girl Project, right? We're not offering this, you know, it's arts meets activism. It is, we are working with high school aged girls. We are confronting American media culture, but it's not in order to, well, it is a little bit to rage against the machine, the patriarchy, but it's because it's what we needed that nobody was offering. And everything that Lauren tells you today or talks about today and why you've been so inspirational to me is because what you're sharing is what you do. And all you can share is your path, you know, and how you walk the walk and talk the talk. And you can suggest that other people do it. You can say that it worked for you, but it's so much easier to take inspiration from people who are living what they're speaking, which is why I called you a geek and a goddess at the same time.
Honored. And one of the things I heard recently that's the most important thing I think I've ever heard is that people are teaching while they're learning.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes I just assume like, well, that person has it figured out. They like check the boxes and they've arrived and they've just done the thing. And it's like, we don't see people behind the scenes falling on their butts and, and calling their friends and processing. And it's just, maybe we have something figured out for a moment, and then the next echelon comes and a new set of challenges come, or your biochemistry shifts because we're human beings with bodies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it just feels, I'm someone who has always wanted to be like, okay, I want to just be okay. I'm a big proponent of therapy, and my therapy's like, do you think you're ever going to be done? Like, do you think that you're suddenly just going to like, be enlightened and not have challenges? And I'm like, how dare you? That is not why I pay you X number of dollars an hour.
So why film and TV? I know you're a theater person too. I know there's challenges to both, but why did you really pursue film and TV over theater?
Mm. I love theater with my heart and soul. It also breaks my heart unlike nothing else. Like, I will fall in love with a role because, you've if it's not a new work, you've seen the show, you've listened to the soundtrack, performed it in your bedroom since you were 13, and then you go to audition and it ripped my heart out, if it, and there's something about film and television that I love both mediums so much, but there feels like kind of endless possibility, and the wheel keeps moving forward. And I don't know this new show that's coming out, and while you can fall in love with a role that's new and it can break your heart a little bit, there's kind of another door coming. At least for me, my dream of dreams is to make a name for myself in film and television and do stints on Broadway. I knew myself as an artist well enough to know, while I stood in line at 5 a.m. to go to equity open calls,
Yeah.
it wasn't going to be my door. That wasn't going to be my entry point, if you will. So I did theater and love it, but I love a world in which I can do both.
Can you talk a little bit about how the representation of women in the media has impacted you, your career, your well-being?
Oh, well. So I'll make jokes and stuff too. Okay, guys. But I was told I needed to lose weight for the first time when I was 6 in a ballet class. I went on my first audition at 6 months old because I was born in Los Angeles. And you're like, yo, you're a person. You're an actor now.
You're a really cute baby. You should be on TV.
So it started very, very young. And I had mentors who I loved very much who were like, Lauren, you want this? You've got to look the part. And I heard from a very young age, like, you're working so hard. This is part of your job. So I was sent the message from a very young age that there was something wrong with my body, and that what I was seeing on TV was what I was supposed to want and strive for. And that was somehow, if I worked towards that, that was, something to be proud of. And I remember, don't judge me, it's going to date me, but when Newlyweds came out, I was obsessed with Jessica Simpson. Don't judge me. Thank you so much for your support, everyone listening. I'm not.
That makes you sound young to me, Jessica Simpson. I'm like, oh, I was 20 when she came.
Listen. And, like she later wrote her book and shared how painful her experience was, but it was kind of like, oh, like that's what you're supposed to look like. And then she went through her own journey with that. And you see what people in the spotlight are put through, trying to kind of chase this, I guess, ideal, right? But it's why I left the industry 3 times, because it threatened my health to the point where I said, it said in my bio that I've got a degree in early childhood ed and special ed. And I said to myself at one point, you know what it's like to hold a baby while they have a seizure? Why are you worried about your weight? Like, you're talking to parents and counseling them about raising a child with special needs and feeling like you're making a difference, and then turning around and obsessing over a guy who's, manager who's telling you you'll never be thin and pretty enough to be on television. And that, to me, there was just this disconnect of like, if there's one thing I'm proud of, it's my heart. And it felt like, well, why am I being told to focus on the exterior if my heart's the thing I want to come across on stage and on camera, you know? And it sounds very Pollyanna, but hi, my name is Pollyanna. Um, you know, I can't, that's the thing that matters to me, is being like a fully realized, vibrant, loving person, not, you know, I don't want my tombstone to read and she was a size, you know, whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very I decided for them. I remember being called in for some film and TV stuff in New York while I was there, and people asked me why I wasn't pursuing it. But every time I got the call, it was never about the work. It was always about how I looked. I'm too fat for film and TV. They're not going to cast me. Why would I spend my time on this? And when you're an artist and you're, you know, when you get a theater audition, you know, you're like, give me the script. Let me read. When I got film and TV, I was like, I'm too fat. I'm not pretty enough. You know, this part of me, this facial feature. So I never even got to the audition, which is fascinating that now at 42, I'm putting myself on tape for film and television. I think it's fascinating that, you know, once we mature and we're ready to challenge these ideas, we're in a very different place. We don't have our youth, you know, and youth is so worshipped in our culture. So has your work with teaching students and special needs students influenced your work? How does it influence your work?
It influences how I operate within the business. So, you know, whether it's working with kids or previous ups and downs, challenges, struggles, to be able to zoom out. Like, I am a human being who can very quickly spiral and lose perspective, and to zoom out and say, you've been through worse than this. You know what is really important. You know, again, like, it was just a very crystallizing moment. I had a mom look at me and say, like, I feel remarkably guilty for having to strap my son to a chair while I shower. And I was 26 years old, teaching 41 children, 60% of whom were typically developing, 40% of whom had special needs. And it was wild. It was a wild, wild time.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment of like wanting to serve that family, wanting to serve that child, and how that was that felt like a life or death situation. And I have to remind myself, like, your feeling about the audition you just turned in is not a life or death situation. You know, I have to kind of get sassy with myself and laugh that, and this is a practice, it's a muscle. I think we talk a lot at Arvold about within the membership about toxic positivity. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe that we should just think, well, you know, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Like, you should care about your auditions. You should be invested. You should give 150%. But when you start to spiral, being able to zoom out and say, okay, like, let me just check myself here. So I think having that experience and helps me keep perspective for the most part. And it's a muscle and a practice, but also wanting to really make a difference, have a platform to work with families, with kids with special needs, to, you know, really give back to the best of my ability with some kind of platform that I'm hoping that those two worlds can merge, you know?
Yeah. Right out of the gate here, like all little pieces of questions I'm asking you, we've already touched on, but if you had to pick your top 3 growth mindset gurus right now to recommend to our audience, who would you choose?
Okay, right now in this moment, I've always loved and continue to love Gabby Bernstein. Like, how can we just keep going from fear to love? Brendan Burchard, his like one of his mantras, did I live, did I love, did I matter? And I bring the joy. That we don't just wake up with joy, we have to generate it, which I love. And then right now I really love Mel Robbins. I've always loved her, but I feel like right now I'm really into her content. So yeah, I like to be conscious of what I consume. And those are 3 people that I really love. And also Glow Autonoma. She's fantastic as well. So those are my 4.
Okay, great. 4. So, you know, you brought up toxic positivity.
Yeah.
And you know, we develop these really great words and then they're like thrown around. And I think we manipulate and undervalue language these days. we say big words for small things, and so the words lose value. But toxic, I mean, that's a big word. So but I do understand people creating a toxic environment where you can't talk about the hard parts. So this idea of shutting people down when things get hard, I do understand. And I think it's the opposite of growth mindset. And I'm really learning that through knowing you the past year, just watching your path. Has been really interesting for me. And I wonder, and I've seen you do it, how do you gently invite those people who have this idea that growth mindset is toxic positivity? How do you slowly invite them towards the light?
Oh, I love this question. Um, I think by being vulnerable, by being honest about, yes, these are the things that I do so that I can feel my best. And then when I come out of alignment, I just do what I can to kind of realign and keep on trucking and learn what I've learned. I think rather than shoving it down anyone's throats, trying to walk the walk imperfectly and then share resources, have conversations, be fully yourself. That's one thing. I don't know. I joke that I'm always trying to be less of who I really am. Everyone else is like, be more of yourself, except you, Lauren. Maybe be a little bit less of you. So I think rather than saying, this is a way to live, being very open of like, these are tools that help me right now, and not, and saying, take the best, leave the rest. That's, we joke that I say that every 5 minutes. But I mean, I don't know, if we believe that anyone has the answers, then we discredit our own wisdom, So I think learning from everyone, and if someone offers something that you can learn from, great. And if not, they're doing the best they can at any given moment too, right? I think one of my biggest lessons in the last couple of years is, for better or worse, people are spiritual teachers. Like, if you have someone who is really triggering for you, and I mean, if they're safe for you, but like just personality wise, or their actions are a bit triggering, or they stir something up in you, asking yourself why. Because, for example, someone who complains all the time, or like really sees things negatively, rather than judging them for that, being able to say, okay, that's just information about how I don't want to operate. And it's an opportunity to practice boundaries for myself. Right. So not saying everything's fine. We're all perfect. Like, no, there are things realistically we don't always know about people, and that's okay. And that will always be true for everyone. But anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah, no, it's great. And a book I was reading recently invites you to always stop and wonder if what you dislike about that person's behavior, you dislike because it mirrors behavior you don't like about yourself. So really always bringing it back to self and working on bettering yourself, because you can't fix other people. You can't help other people unless they want to be helped, but you can constantly be receiving feedback about bettering yourself. I think that's beautiful. So, I've already told you can say pass to any question. Was there a moment or an event in your life, like one event, that this work, growth mindset work, going to a therapist who said you should really start looking into this type of material, or you finding the material for yourself? Was there one moment that this work has brought you back from, or that really made you jump into this work to help put you back on a path that was survivable for you?
Yes. I moved to New York City at 18, like, stepped off the bus singing a show tune, really just like ready to do it. And my whole world fell apart. I had worked so hard to get into Tisch. I got very, very sick. I was assistant directing an off-Broadway play. I was trying to get straight A's. I was auditioning for shows. I was up for a contract role on a soap, and I got very, very sick. I was very underweight at the time because I was told that was the job. And my body couldn't fight a case of double pneumonia that ended up hospitalizing me, and my body wasn't fighting the infection, and it messed with my serotonin levels. And it was very dark and it was very scary. And it felt like it felt like the bottom fell out. Right. And it was this crystallizing moment of, it's that kind of, who am I if I am not the things I am doing or striving to be the actor? Like, I started acting when I was so little that had become a large part of my identity. And it felt like you worked so hard, you got there, and I was 18, so little baby thought her life was over.
Yeah.
And, it's corny, but I love to say, like, the moments you think you're being broken, you're being built. If I had gone to New York and it had all worked out and it was very easy, I don't think I would have the heart for wanting to make a difference that I do. I mean, I've always cared about others, but I care so much about letting people know their intrinsic worth outside of this wild business. Like, if someone wants to talk to me, I hope they want to talk to me about my dogs, more than their auditions. Because let me tell you, my dogs are amazing. But I think that moment, and it's when I was the kid in middle school who, like, was best friends with the school counselor. Like, I've always loved reflection and therapy. I've just always been here for it. And I've always wanted to grow. But I think that came from a place of wanting to be my best so that I felt good about myself, so that I was the good girl, so that I was the achiever and made everyone proud, versus wanting to live a life that was authentically mine, that I was proud of, I don't know if you've heard of sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is say, fuck you. Right. I was someone who never experienced anger, who, like, would never dream of ruffling feathers, so I think all of that, and walking through this wild time of having to, then I started teaching at a preschool to get back on my feet after I got well. I was bedridden for a long time. I was in and out of hospitals trying to get my health, ended up going back to school. Then after graduating, went out to LA, and through all of that, I just wanted to figure it out. I just wanted it to be okay. I just wanted to, because I associated that moment where I got sick and had to leave school and with failure, like, you almost had the dream. And I mean, I was auditioning for Guiding Light and All My Children. And it was like, got to get healthy so that I can go be on a show. And it's like, no, you're laying the foundation so that you can be in this business. And would I recommend that route to anyone? Absolutely not. Please don't. I'm one of those, she loves to learn the hard way. That's not like life school that I would suggest to anyone, but sometimes we're dealt cards so that you get a script and you're like, no one's going to play that the way I'm going to play it, because I've seen things and I've felt things that I don't know if someone else has walked through. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should all be able to say that. Like, the first semester I was at NYU, someone said, before I had to leave, someone said, don't forget that you can read all the textbooks, but you're going to draw on your life. You've got to live your life. And I think sometimes as actors, we're so inclined to just have that laser sharp focus about just the career. And then you got to go get your heart broken. You got to go, you got to go live, and you got to bounce back from it. And it continues to evolve and help you grow as a person. That's what I love about acting, is the more I grow as a person, the more I grow as an artist.
That is an Anne Bogart quote. It's my favorite one. Your growth as a human being is not separate from your growth as an artist.
Anne, I love you, girl.
Oh, Anne Bogart. She's everything. So before we get into mindset, because I find it all very overwhelming, I just want you to tell me, if you want to pull out your planner, great, what your daily schedule, a regular daily schedule for Lauren looks like.
So every day looks different. And based on, I have a morning routine and an evening routine, and that's when I do the things that you're talking about. So the thing I like to say is, okay, and this evolves, but if I make kind of a joy list, or, like, sounds so corny, but y'all, it's me, like a joy generator list, like things that are going to make, even if I don't want to start it, it's going to make me feel good. And I know that. What are those things? So, like, for me, I'll get up in the morning, I'll walk my dogs, I will sit down and do morning pages. So 3 pages of free writing, a la Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way. All like right now, Gabby Bernstein has a manifesting challenge where it's like 5 minutes of meditation, right? So consume some positive content. I take a cold shower because that is like taking medicine. It shocks your system, and it
Good
sounds
for the circulation. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds absolutely terrible. And I promise when you start doing it, you crave it. And I have my coffee. I I will plan my day, review my goals for the day, and then kind of have office hours. It depends. Like if I'm on set, that's a very and I'll exercise. That is a very abbreviated thing if
Yeah.
I'm on set, right?
Yeah.
What would take me, and I get up really early, so I'll admit that. But I know I feel better when I do, right? If I get up at 5 and spend 2 hours taking care of myself and doing things that I know are going to set me up to feel great, it ends up, I go to bed early and I end up feeling better than if I sleep till 7.
Yeah.
So it sounds rigid, but it has to be flexible. Otherwise it becomes a chore. And I end up looking forward to it, like I those are things I want to do. And it can look like whatever works for you, and it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be, 25 minutes, right? Just listening to something positive, getting outside for a walk, whatever sets you up to feel good. I just have to I wake up kind of feeling anxious and like with kind of impending, like, oh no, like, what am I, and then once I do those things, I'm like, oh, I've got it. Right. And it's just how my nervous system is wired. That when I take those steps, I'm like, okay, let's go. It's going to be a beautiful day kind of thing.
So what's your nighttime routine?
Nighttime routine, disconnect from phone goes away. Otherwise I like mindlessly scroll. And that's a new thing. I've started deleting the app from my phone when I'm not on it. I will read 10 pages. If it's more. I'll have a cup of tea, or like, it sounds so gross if you don't like it, or like warm almond milk. I'm so sorry.
Oh, God.
I'm so sorry. It's so good. I just lost everyone. I'm so sorry, guys. Keep going. It's just you can do tea. Hang on. And then I will turn on a meditation, write a little bit, go to bed. But I just find, and this is super imperfect. The other night I started watching Station 11, and Station 11 is amazing. So instead of doing my nighttime routine, I watched 2 hours of Station 11 and then had night terrors because,
Evan woke up 2 nights ago. We just started watching Station 11. End of the world stuff will wake him up. I sleep great. I'm like, oh, I'm like, they have it worse than me. I'm doing good, I think, but yeah, Station 11's good.
It's incredible. It's incredible. But I've learned that's an afternoon show for me. Like when I watched Game of Thrones, I watched it like it was a nighttime show and I had to sleep with my lights on. So all that to say, I think we assume like we're going to wake up every day feeling great and that every day is going to be just great and something's wrong with us if we don't feel good all the time. And I'm like, no, if I'm a diabetic, I take my insulin. If I'm prone to anxiety, I'm going to schedule things in that make me feel good.
Yeah.
That kind of help me reconnect with myself, and it can, 2 minutes of something is better than nothing. Right. It's sometimes like putting our shoes on to go for the walk is the hardest part, you know? So it's stuff that I work at, then I fall off, then I get back on. And I just I know that that's part of being a human. So I'm gentle with myself. Like if we had everything figured out, we'd be really bored, Yeah.
So I think the reason I get overwhelmed, I'm the person who's like, oh, I need to go just brush up my website. And then 4 hours later, I've designed a new one that I think I like better. Right. I will go down the rabbit hole. with one assignment. Like, make a daily schedule for yourself. I'll design what the schedule looks like for hours, before actually doing the thing. So I do find this work overwhelming for me, and it's hard. So let's assume everyone listening right now is really burned out because we're in the third year of a pandemic, and Omicron is, if they're like, I don't know how to create a morning routine for myself, what's one thing I can try to wake up and do for the next 6 weeks? Is there one thing you can say, do this one thing, and it might put you on a good path to the next thing?
I love that question. Anything that gets you in touch with your intuition. So for me, that's writing, that's morning pages. And then Mel Robbins has this great thing where she encourages people to put their hand on their chest and say, like, I am safe. There's something about just, you feel good when you take your hand and put it on your chest and you take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, that one thing is writing, but that might not be the thing for someone else. So I'll just throw a couple things out there that have resonated with me recently. Because December was a particularly challenging month for me. And I'm like, okay, what are a couple things I can try? And one was like looking in the mirror, putting my hand on my heart, taking a breath, and like telling myself I was okay, because I think there's that snowball effect of when we don't feel good and we continue to focus on not feeling good, it compounds on itself, versus like scheduling kind of stopping points to jolt ourselves out of it, right? So sometimes if I'm sitting down to work, I'll set a timer so that I can take a break, bring myself out of it, like check back in with myself, and then get back to work. I think the same's true of like going throughout our day. Like, we don't often look at ourselves in the mirror and acknowledge we're people having a human experience who aren't just here to pay bills and die, right? So I think go whether it's going for a 5-minute walk. And yesterday I found this beautiful flower that I was like, how did this thing grow there? And just marveling at something, really getting out of ourselves. Another thing I love is when you're stuck in self, calling a friend who you think might need you, right? And just listening, right? Getting ourselves out of self, trying to be of service to the people we love. So and then I think honoring where you are, if I know I'm going on tangents, sorry, Ellie, but December was tricky for me. I watched more TV than I would have cared to, and that's where I was that month, right? So it's not, there's a little bit of this hustle porn culture that is all about achieving the most. And I love that Brene Brown talks about how part of her writing process is binging Law and Order SVU, because you've got to replenish for the next, especially as artists, we kind of go through these periods of a lull and then a big push. And if you don't give yourself the lull to kind of feel burnt out, or, we want to avoid burnout, but sometimes you work really hard on something for 3 weeks and then you're exhausted. And if you don't allow yourself that exhaustion without judgment, and to your point about walking through this pandemic, exhaustion without judgment, and finding joy where we can, and holding on to hope relentlessly, I think is really important, and surrounding yourself with the people who help you do that. So I didn't answer your question succinctly, but if anyone's still listening, I don't say things succinctly.
So what you are actually saying is either, I think a lot of times when we wake up and walk to our computer and start doing work, instead of, it's really an avoidance of self. So waking up and getting in touch with your intuition, what you might want for the day. And if you can give yourself the time to do that before you start anything else, if that's a 5-minute walk, if that's sending a nice message to someone you love, anything to put you in a place where you're giving yourself attention before you give everything else your attention. That's what I gleaned from that.
Do you want to like edit my brain for me?
I would love to. That would be great. No, it's really good. And I liked that you add getting out of yourself. Like, I wake up with those feelings of anxiety of how much I have to do, but it's hard for me to remember. Evan reminds me, but it's hard for me to remember that I love storytelling. So even if I'm taking a walk and listening to a podcast and just someone else's story, kind of gets me out of this anxiety brain space. And that's really doing something for me, something I love, right? So I love that even if it's getting your attention out and on something else, that's the actor maybe in all of us. But that makes a lot of sense to me. And I do want to put out there that burnout can also be lack of things to do. So it's not always about being so busy that you're burned out. We have permission to be burned out from lack of purpose. And taking the step to do one thing for yourself might help with that burnout because you're not avoiding. Love this. Okay. So next, I'm waking up. I've done that every morning. I'm like, this feels really good. And I've really committed to doing this for a week, 2 weeks. Sometimes people might do it for 2 months. What's your next tiny baby step after that?
Ooh. So
I know this is challenging.
No, it's so great. So
might be the cold shower.
Cold shower's epic. And just look up Wim Hof and cold showers. It's the thing I've always had resistance to, but movement. My body just wants me to I love to connect with people. I love to be out, but my body just is like, you should stay home and you should just not move. So I think kind of fighting my impulses to just not want to be in motion is important. So, especially with my 2 pups, I go for a 45-minute walk every day and I listen to a podcast. Like Brendan Burchard or Mel Robbins, or there's a great one, The Expanded from To Be Magnetic, Lewis Howes, School of Greatness. So I'll listen to something positive and go for a walk. And then, maybe there's tons of free classes on the internet and stuff, just something to get me in my body and, those endorphins that kick in. And it's an obvious one, but I say it because it's the one I didn't want to say, because it's what I'm always reminding myself to do.
So step 2, get a dog.
Yeah. Adopt a dog.
Because you have to take a dog for a walk. It'll get you. That's what I took from that. No, it's really good. And it took me a while to understand. And this is going back to the very beginning, but I have a really incredible partner. And I know you know that, but he makes me, I'll say shit. And he's like, I need you to explain that. And then I have to think through it and think why I am feeling that way. And then I'm like, oh, that's profound. But there's so much association from my youth that working out is about losing weight. And I resent that I have to put my focus on being thinner, being right. But then, my partner comes back with, but you always are so much happier after you go out and do a workout. I'm like, of course I am, because I love moving. I am a physical actor. This is what I put my heart and soul into. And I love dance and so really trying to adjust my mindset to think I'm not going out to do this thing because I hate myself, which is why I used to do it, right? I'm not thin enough. I'm not blah, 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 blah. But I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. And I have to remember that I'm going to feel better after I do it. It's so hard to adjust those carved ideas.
And I think the thing that's helped me with that idea, because same, is this is conditioning. This is training for, when we're on set, getting up in the morning and just needing to be warm. So doing a 25-minute free yoga class before going to set, right?
Yeah.
Just saying, okay, I need to be present in my body and not a certain size, but we need to be, I guess, just present in our bodies and connected to them. And that can be going for a walk, or it can be a yoga class, or it can be, when we get to the other side of this, I used to love going to Zumba class and pretending I was on Dancing with the Stars. I was like, is this class going to be scored or not?
Where's my partner? So your morning routine and your evening routine are very telling, but I'm interested in, because you've talked to me through this before. And I think it's really how you're setting up battle boards. And I know that that comes from Brendan Burchard, right?
It does.
Yeah. So I know we've talked about with Atomic Habits, like setting systems, right? Office hours. And I've heard you say before, vibrating at the energetic level you want to attract, and be where your feet are and take the best and leave the rest, all these resonant things that you say. So I want to know, when you sit down to plan your week, your month, your year, whatever you want to say, when you're looking at a battle board, will you just take us through the steps of what you would invite people to try that might help them if they're like, I'm going to use the F word, fucking hate New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
You can start a resolution every single day, every single hour. So it is January. We are talking right now about this, but even if they wanted to look at the next 3 months, how would you set them up? Like, what would you invite them to do? Say you're leading this workshop. It's a 5-minute workshop, 2 minutes, whatever you want it to be.
Okay. So listen, this is going to get extremely nerdy.
Okay.
And it's going to seem very type A, and it's going to seem a little too intense, but I have this as a framework, not something that limits me or pressures me. So just, if you want to Google Brendan Burchard battle boards, he has this great video about how he likes to set a visual up in his home that shows him what he's working on and the steps to get there. So,
and if you're saying that sounds like a vision board, it is, but I really resonate with the title battle board.
I love that. And it's not like just pictures that inspire you. It's like, what are the actions? What are the tangible, whether it's a list of items that you need to accomplish towards a project this month, or it's tangible action steps that you've created by kind of reverse engineering your goals. So I'm going to break it down. It's going to feel overwhelming. Breathe. Okay. So I like to keep a document that has my overall goals. Like, if I could paint an ideal vision of my life, dream of dreams, what would those be? What would those goals? And I put it at that on the top of that document. And then I say, okay, so this year, dream of dreams, what would the goals be? And then I break things down month by month. What are the action steps that I can control? Because as an actor, I can't put book guest star in January. I have zero control over that. But I know what classes I'm taking. I know that my goal is to work with a coach to turn out consistently solid auditions that I'm proud of, and build relationships, and grow as an actor, regardless of the outcome. So I'll have goals that are for the month, and then I adjust them as I go. So, then when I'm planning my week, I can look back at what were the goals for January and break down what I'm doing that week towards those goals. I have those things on my battle board. I always giggle when I say it. I have those things on my battle board because it helps keep me focused. It helps me say, okay, what's in my control that I can work towards to hopefully bring these things to fruition. And then I've got, inspirational photos on them and quotes and things that make me light up on there too. And then I have on that board, I have areas of my life that, whether it's spirit, health, family, friends, learning, which for me is separate than craft. I want to be learning things outside of our industry. I have these buckets that I'm like, okay, what are the goals in this area? Or in these areas, because those are important to me too. So those are two kind of separate entities. And when I sit down to plan my month and week, I take all those things into consideration. So for example, I have experiences as a bucket, or area that I want to focus on, because if I know I'm gonna go to St. George this year to visit my family, I'm gonna go to New York at least twice this year, I have to keep those things in mind to schedule them in, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great, great. It sounds, even just saying it, I'm like, I'm tired. But that's what I did end of December, beginning of January. And you can do this any time of year. And the most important thing that I do of all of this is I track my wins. And those wins are not like, I booked this thing. Those wins are like, damn, I am crushing my morning evening routine. I got together with 4 friends. I took this class. I turned in these 4 auditions that I felt amazing about. Like, the steps along the way, because especially if you're an artist, you can so easily discredit the process and say like, well, where's the result? I'm not doing anything. It's not happening. And it's like, you are constantly planting seeds that you don't know when the results of all that hard work is going to come to fruition, you know? So again, that's why I say 87 times, take the best, leave the rest. Because if there's one thing, if you just kind of want to jot some things down for your year that you want to be intentional about, that to me feels better than the goal is to, you know, I don't know, if we don't, I was going to, I think it puts control in my hands versus giving it to an industry that is not, you can have an incredible year and it's not consistent, right? This industry is not consistent. So not making the goals more about bookings, but rather the work that goes into them and how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I'd done something really special when I started feeling overwhelmed by my work schedule. And I made this 5-month calendar and I was like, I have that 3-day weekend. I have 2 days there and I have like 2 days here. And I got a little sticky note and I put family vacation and I stuck it right there.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes.
It was the first time that my mom and my sister and I actually planned something. Right? In advance. We're just not planners like that. We live day to day. It's like survival mode. Almost. My sister has 2 kids. My mom worked her ass off in the theater industry. So it just amazed me. I'm like, oh, that worked. That's very interesting. So even mapping out, like, where do you see pockets of time that you can really give yourself joyful events? And that's where you go to those buckets, right? Like, friend bucket.
Yes.
Haven't gotten any time with a friend. This is a day off.
Yeah.
And
it's, you know, I know for anyone listening, I know if you made it past the almond milk thing, gosh, bless, I am so embarrassed I said that publicly. But she is who she is. If you aren't, we tend to forget, right? Like, we tend to think, oh man, why am I feeling so bad and so run down? It's like, oh, you haven't had a day off in 2 months. Of course you're a little bit run down, right? Like, and there are times that, you know, we might not be able to carve out as much time for ourselves as we like, but just being intentional about prioritizing what we want our life to feel like. Otherwise, I think we're always responding to what other people need, you know? And I don't know, I looked back on this last year and I'm like, I do want to take more trips. It's hard right now, right? But even just staycations, like my brother's in the mountains. I want to go visit the mountains more, you know? Being more cognizant of having time off, you know? Otherwise, I think things just feel like we're always working, and I don't think that's healthy for me, you know?
Yeah.
I think that downtime is important.
Yeah. And it all goes back to, we can all set goals, but it's really easy to write down something we want and we want to achieve. But if you don't have systems in place, like you're saying, you know, that you've written down these 3 things that are your priority. And I'm going to come back to this every day and look at it. Right. So I know where to go when I wonder what to do next. What can I do for myself today? What can I do on this day off? You can go back to what you wrote there.
Yes. And I want to clarify for anyone listening, when I say I don't want to feel like I'm always working, I don't mean performing and acting. As actors, if you're not an actor, we have like 87 jobs. You know, we're not on set all the time. But I mean, that's the tricky thing about navigating the life of an artist is you're babysitting, you're tutoring, you're teaching, you're doing so many things that sometimes it's like you don't have a 9 to 5. So you don't know always how to shut it down. So it's those boundaries as an artist, I think, that are part of planning and mindset.
Yeah.
For longevity, if you will.
Yeah. So with your vision board and your vision board battle boards over the last 20 years, paint us a picture, dream of dreams. What do you hope the future holds?
I would love to be a working actor. You know, I mean, rest her soul, Betty White just passed. I've always said like I want to just act until the end, you know? I mean, just what an icon and so you know, Betty White's life. But I would love to I always say that I want to be that girl that people are like, I know her from that thing. She played that psychopath and then she's really funny in that other thing. Like you can't quite place her, but
she's in everything. Who is that?
Yeah. I would love to continue working in film and television, do stints on Broadway. I would love to have a platform to really make a difference in the lives of kids and kids with special needs and their families, people who didn't have the same access to the kind of healthcare that I did when I didn't have my health, and just give a voice to even more of a voice to the kind of foundations that I believe in, and just make a difference there.
What are some of the organizations you believe in?
I really love Heart Gallery. They're an organization that helps place children in foster care and forever homes. And it's my birthday tomorrow and I'm raising money for them. So I know this will come out later, but
you can still always go and donate.
It's going to release in January, right?
Oh yeah, next week.
It'll still be my birthday month. So and the thing is going for two more weeks. So
and that's on your Instagram?
On my Instagram.
Heart Gallery. Yes.
I listened to your interview with Scout and I was so moved by what you said after the tornadoes in Kentucky about, you know, just thinking we think, how are we going to make a difference? And if the people that watch my story all donated $2, it would blow my goal out of the water, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I know I'm jumping ahead, but we were gonna talk later about my favorite book. And yep. I was reading it this morning and I got really choked up because I got it my first year in the education program at NYU, and I have like really corny notes written in it. But one of Marian Wright Edelman's quotes here is, "The place to begin is with ourselves, care." And you know, we don't always have access to, you know, I'm not always able to donate in a way that I would like to causes, but I'm like, okay, where can I cut back on one thing so I can donate $2 to this? Because if everyone donated $2, you know, anyway.
What is your superpower?
Loving really fully.
Beverly and Vixen.
Well, I care
and
about
everybody.
Someone would tell me that like their dogs started sleeping in their bed, and the, you know, the dogs aren't going to continue sleeping in their bed. I'm like, I hope for those dogs that they won that battle. I really like, I people will tell me things and like 2 months later, I'm still like invested in those dogs. Right. So I think I just care a little too much.
What do you hope people say about you after you're gone?
She had a heart that could change the world.
If you could have billboards on the highways of every country, what would they say?
You have everything you need.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
That nothing outside of you, no achievement, no recognition, no affirmation from another person will ever be the thing that makes you feel you love yourself or healed or enough or successful. that all of that is a fallacy.
Were you going to share more of the book for Campfire Section, or was that your quote from her book?
Can I read the 25 lessons? They're
Please.
not long. They're not long.
Now we're going to read a 200-page.
And now get your hot almond milk and start a crackling fire for story time. Okay, 25 Lessons for Life, Marian Wright Edelman. I hope this makes you buy the book, because this is just, she expands on each lesson, and it's described as a blueprint for living. Number 1, there is no free lunch. Don't feel entitled to anything you don't sweat and struggle for. 2, set goals and work quietly and systematically toward them. 3, assign yourself. 4, never work for just money or power. They won't save your soul or help you sleep at night. 5, don't be afraid of taking risks or being criticized. 6, take parenting and family life seriously and insist that those who work for you and represent you do. 7, remember that your wife is not your mother or your maid, but your partner and your friend. 8, forming families is serious business. 9, be honest. 10, remember and help America remember that the fellowship of human beings is more important than the fellowship of race and class and gender in a democratic society. 11, sell the shadow for the substance. 12, never give up. 13, be confident that you can make a difference. 14, don't ever stop learning and improving your mind. 15, don't be afraid of hard work or of teaching your children to work. 16, slow down and live. 17, choose your friends carefully. 18, be a can-do, will-try person. 19, try to live in the present. 20, use your political and economic power for the community and others less fortunate. 21, listen for the sound of the genuine within yourself and others. 22, you are in charge of your own attitude. 23, remember your roots, your history, and the forebear's shoulders on which you stand. 24, be reliable, be faithful, finish what you start. 25, always remember that you are never alone.
Wow.
It's this book. And what breaks my little heart is like, I read this at 18. Look at how aggressively I circled and starred and underlined.
What was number 11? I think it.
Did I cut out number?
No. You read it. I think I struggled to understand it.
Sell the shadow for substance.
What does that mean?
I'll let you borrow the book. Like, substance over the superficial.
Shadow for substance. Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, I love when people share things that I don't know about.
I love her book.
I'm going to move you into rapid response. Are you ready for this? What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Beverly Hills Housewives.
Oh, Lauren.
Listen. Don't judge me.
I did just judge you first.
You just get haunted by the idea of me sitting watching Beverly Hills Housewives drinking warm
with hot almond milk. Yeah. Favorite thing you watched in 2021? It's hard.
I know. Sorry. Swan Song.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely Swan Song.
What's your favorite documentary of 2021?
I really liked The Last Dance. I watched it and I thought I could be a basketball player.
Yeah.
So motivated. I was like, I'm gonna be an athlete. No, I loved it. And then I went down the rabbit hole of listening to Tim Grover's book, who trained Michael Jordan. I just thought Michael Jordan was fascinating. And what was yours?
My Octopus Teacher.
Oh, I watched that too. It was sad.
Kind of.
It was really sad. Ellen.
Every entity moves towards entropy. It's okay. What movie do you watch when you're down in the dumps?
Lola Versus.
I've never even heard of that.
It's Greta Gerwig. She stars in it, and it's so good.
What's your mantra? One word for 2022, if you had to pick one right now.
Radiate.
Radiate.
That's so hard.
Yeah. Your attitude to the world in one word for 2022.
grateful.
What's one phrase you will wipe from your vocabulary in 2022?
Not enough.
What's one intention you would offer to all of humanity right now, if you could?
Recognize how far you've come.
Before we get off, we joke about Vixen and Beverly Hills Cop 2, but your dog's name is Beverly Hills Cops 2, just so the audience knows. You gained this family through Lifeline, both of them, right?
Yes.
So just tell our audience a little bit about Lifeline and the abundance that has brought you.
Oh, thanks, Ellie. Lifeline is an amazing shelter in Atlanta who I learned about through Drama Inc., through the founders of Drama Inc., who I love very much. I'm very grateful to them. I had a pup for 16 years. And when she was 15, a vet suggests that maybe one day she might not always be with me, which was frankly very rude. And suggested I might want to adopt a dog. And I was like, how dare? The pandemic happened and I adopted Vixen. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was just, and Marilyn passed 3 months ago. And shortly after, I was questioning if it was too shortly after, but something in my gut told me to adopt another pup. And I did. And it was again, the best thing I ever did. Those two are in competition for being the best thing I ever did. They are in love with each other. And I got very lucky. They are best friends and currently snuggling, being perfect little angels, because they know it's you, Ellie. This is part of them supporting me in my audition to be your best friend.
That's beautiful.
But it's enhanced my life in so many ways to care for them, and in this time in the world, get me out of the house more and more. And whenever I'm leaving a project, to be excited to go home to my little weird, strange family, because my life doesn't look like what I was sold, like the white picket fence and the husband and children. I'm personally never wanted to have kids, and I'm open to maybe one day having a partner, but I bought my first house this year. Like I bought a condo in Atlanta, and to say like your life and your family can look the way that you envision it, it can be beyond your wildest dreams. I think it's an important reminder that sometimes we feel like if our life doesn't look like everyone else, it's somehow, we haven't done the thing that society tells us we should do.
Yes. And I've never felt more confident in telling people on Voices Amped that if you follow anyone on Instagram, it should be Lauren Buglioli. She will make you laugh hysterically. Her dogs will bring you light. It is a Instagram account focused on joy and enrichment and happiness, which are your dogs. If you want to learn a little bit more about Florida Man or any of the shows we talked about Lauren being on, you can totally stalk her on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, and see all of the work she's done. It'll be super exciting to see all that. Do you have do you have anybody on social media or Instagram? And I know you try to find health and positivity in this crazy world of social media, but do you have people that you recommend for folks to follow that bring you joy, that you go to? For
my friend Allie Stroker, Allie Stroker, my friend Ellie Clark, everyone on our team at Arvold. I love people like Brendan Burchard, Mel Robbins, Gavin Bernstein, Tracy Ellis Ross is like, I love when I can look at someone doing the thing that, like, Tracy Ellis Ross to me is such a badass, amazing entertainer who makes me feel wonderful about being a single woman. Like, I like to find those accounts. So I think my advice would be find those accounts that make you feel good and make you feel expanded. Like that is the person doing the thing. Kristen Bell's another one I love. People who want to make a difference, who also make me laugh, who bring me joy. If the account makes me feel yucky, like I will unfollow it, and it's not, and I hope if I ever make anyone feel yucky, first of all, I'm sorry, and I will never forgive myself, but unfollow me. Yeah, I just think it's such a sensitive thing to be consuming content we can't control. I want to make sure that people I follow are thoughts I want in my brain,
So smart. Lauren, I love you.
Oh, that's what I was hoping you'd say. Thank you.
I admire you
love
so
you.
much. Thank you.
I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you.
Do you want to wake up the dogs? Do you want to
You want me to?
go?
Who wants a treat?
You're so manipulative.
Beverly Hills Cop would like a treat.
Beverly. She's like, I'm eating a treat. Look at those ears.
Those ears. Vixen knows she's so smart. Too.
Oh, man.
Vixen.
Look at it's like she posed for the camera.
She knows her angles. She knew the shot.
Thanks for listening. For those of you new to the podcast, we are Voices Amplified, and you are listening to Voices Amped. You can check out our work or support us by visiting voicesamplified.net. Our work generates brave and equitable spaces for storytelling by underrepresented voices in dominant culture. We support and partner with organizers, thought leaders, and arts activists across the United States. Our team is me, Ellie Clark, and co-founder Vanessa Becker-Weig, as well as the incredible Dr. Margaret McGladdery and Jenny Benavides. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Voices Amped. We love feedback, so shoot us an email at ellie@voicesamplified.net. That's ELLIE@voicesamplified.net. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, reach out. As always, thanks for your support, and remember, be curious, be courageous, take up space, and make some noise.